Going off from position number 5, it'll be the 30 machine, Wayland and Atlas Auto Appearance for Deep River, Connecticut's Eddie Field. Hanging out next to him, driving the 17 from Berlin, Connecticut, Manafort Brothers, Gray Wolf Construction, and Rock Landscaping present Jason Palmer. 7th starting spot belongs to the number 48 machine from Southington, Connecticut. That's Darrell LaPointe Jr. And to his right, driving the number 32, Bakaj Construction and Home Selling Team present Farmington, Connecticut's Chris Bakaj. On the inside of row number 5, driving the 31 from Southbury, Connecticut, it's Michael Jarvis Jr. And to his right, driving the 52, Bakaj Homes and Bakaj Construction present Lebanon, Connecticut's Mark Bakaj. Going off from the 11th starting spot, driving the 06, that will be Ben Erlinson from Moodus, Connecticut. Working next to him, driving the 02, Alternative Labor Resources present West Boylston, Massachusetts, Richard Dowdy. On the inside of row number 7 will be the 67 machine, that's Roxbury, Connecticut's Daniel Bisignano. And next to him, driving the 36, that will be Joe Gaeta from Salem, Connecticut. And the Bennett Excavating, Larry's Auto Machine, and Head Insurance present the Salem, Connecticut driver. Rao and Justin Holmes, a pair of Justins, will lead him down. And it is Justin Rao with the jump and the lead as they go into turn 1. Holmes looks to follow it forth, and he'll look to slide in the 2nd spot. But the 66 trouble further back in the field as both the Bakajs come together with the 13 of Brian Wimette in turn number 2. Yellow will fall as we fail to complete a lap, and the 13 of Wimette pulls away. Warner, Justin Rao, and Art Moran Jr. bring them down. And we are underway one more time. This time Art Moran gets the jump, and he pilots that number 66 machine to the lead. Justin Rao, and here comes shot out of a cannon on the outside. The 48 of Darrell LaPointe, and the 52 of Mark Bakaj runs 3rd. Rao sits 4th, and here comes the 31 of Michael Jarvis. So that outside line has worked all the way around Justin Rao as the top 4 cars made the move around the 14 of Rao, and he's all the way back in the 5th spot. But leading the charge into turn number 3, it's the 66 of Art Moran. Darrell LaPointe sits 2nd. Here comes Michael Jarvis. He looks to the outside of Mark Bakaj, but Bakaj is able to hold him off as he makes a move of his own on the 48 of LaPointe. But Jarvis continues to hang on the backside of the 52 as they go into turn 3, and now he'll move up alongside. Battle on for the 3rd spot. It is Michael Jarvis Jr. to the outside. The top 4 cars race side by side into turn 1. LaPointe on the inside of Moran. Bakaj, and now LaPointe is around in turn number 1. The field looks to get around as Bakaj gets together. Number 4, Art Moran and Michael Jarvis. This time they are to Jimmy Warner's liking, and liking the start is the 66 of Art Moran Jr. as he's out in front, chased by Jarvis. Now Jarvis looks to the inside as they go into turn number 3. They'll pull even as they come off turn number 4. Jarvis and Moran battling for the top spot. It is Michael Jarvis by a half car length, but Moran continues to hang tough on that outside. Now Moran is around with the number 30 of Ed Field, and he grabs the coach machine, the 52 of Mark Bakaj, and up against the wall is Eddie Field. So unlike in his heat race, we're off turn number 4, the cars inch their way to the starting line, green flag in the air. Michael Jarvis gets the push from the 32 of Chris Bakaj. He has the lead. Bakaj follows underneath Palmer. He'll sit in the 2nd spot. And now trouble for Jason Palmer as that car goes up in smoke down the back stretch. He keeps it high. The field is able to get by the wounded machine of Palmer as he comes off 4. But we look to stay under green. Jarvis has the lead, but the yellow will fly as Jason Palmer and that badly smoking machine go by the start-finish line.
And there's probably a lot of liquid being dumped onto the track.
Green flag flies, and it is Michael Jarvis who grabs the lead in turn number 1. He is chased there now. Brian Wimette is on the inside. Wimette coming back from an earlier incident, but he battles with the 32 of Chris Bakaj. Bakaj and Wimette. Bakaj on the outside, and that creamsicle number 32. He'll grab the 2nd spot. Wimette now has a battle on his hands with the 52 of Mark Bakaj and the 48 of Darrell LaPointe. Wimette trying to hang on as LaPointe and Bakaj tag team up behind him, but now it is the 32 of Chris Bakaj who's moved to the back bumper of Jarvis, but Jarvis pulls away. We still have the battle for 4th and 5th as Darrell LaPointe, who came from the pits from an altercation, Now looks to get underneath the 13 of Ouimet. Ouimet pulls away. Now here comes the 52 machine on the outside. Both those cars battling with Ouimet. Ouimet in the middle. Lapointe and Bakaj try to find their way around with just 12 laps left in tonight's Legends main event.
So Brian Ouimet surrounded by the enemy momentarily, and now Bakaj slips, or one car slips by the wayside, Mark Bakaj, and now it's Lapointe mounting a challenge. He loads up against the 13 car, has a preferred position on the bottom of the track. Things are heating up in the battle for the lead. Mike Jarvis doing everything he can to keep the 32 behind him. Chris Bakaj right now can't find any room on the bottom groove. Lapointe running a strong race in third, followed by Mark Bakaj, Brian Ouimet, and Richard Dowdy. The action intensifies like a fireball. The 31 of Michael Jarvis, maybe he couldn't do this at the start of the year, a year ago, hold off such a fast car as Chris Bakaj, but he has the experience now, and that time he gave Bakaj a piece of the bottom, and Chris was not swift enough to take advantage of it. Lapointe, back after a year off, running a sturdy third. Right behind him is Mark Bakaj, Ouimet, and Dowdy. Let's see if Chris Bakaj can generate another charge. Jarvis has the lead, but all over him, like graffiti on a locker room wall, is the 32 of Bakaj. Gets into passing position, has a great run on the bottom. Those two cars, ball and chain together. The drivers are handcuffed. Here comes Chris Bakaj, yellow out to mess up his momentum, as there's a mess in turn number 3, or between. But in between, we've seen some good racing. Good start for Jarvis. Keep an eye on the 48 of Darrell Lapointe. That golden gladiator has moved up into third. Here come the Bakaj brothers. Chris pulling even with Jarvis. The spurt belongs to Chris Bakaj. The leverage to Michael Jarvis. The two cars cross the stripe simultaneously. Mark Bakaj involved in 2 incidents. There's debris flying along the track in turn number 1. We'll see if it becomes a factor. Chris Bakaj has taken over the lead. In third is Mark Bakaj. So the yellow comes out, and Michael Jarvis must have felt like the vanilla ice cream in the middle of the creamsicle, because that's what he does. Now Chris Bakaj tries to retaliate. Mark Bakaj and Darrell Lapointe, running the best race he has in many a year, is holding on to the number 4 position. Bakaj getting the edge. Here comes Jarvis. He doesn't want Chris to get away. Chris is going to be able to clear the 31 car. So a new leader with 5 laps to go, Chris Bakaj. He has endured his way through all the cautions. Now Mark Bakaj is able to get around the 31 and take over second place. So both Chris and Mark taking the scenic route around Michael Jarvis. Lapointe is 4th, and here comes Richard Dowdy making a statement. He has moved into 5th place. Down to the final 4. Orange is decorating the front of the field. Chris in 1st, Mark in 2nd. Mark won on opening weekend. Maybe this is Chris's turn. They alternated victories quite often during 2006. So right now, the script is dominated by one name, Bakaj. Can it stay that way through the final 2 laps?
And off turn number 4, it is Chris Bakaj leading the charge into 1. His brother Mark in tow sits 2nd. Michael Jarvis is in the 3rd spot. The 48 of Darrell Lapointe 4th. And the 02 of Richard Dowdy sits 5th. 6th is the 13 of Brian Ouimet. White flag in the air. Does Mark have anything for his brother Chris? Can he get around him in the final half lap to get the win? Yellow will fly in turn Mark. Green is in the air. We're underway for the final 2. The Bakajs race side by side. Chris and Mark in turn number 2. Down the backstretch by inches, it's the 32 of Chris in the lead. But here comes his brother Mark on the outside in the 52. Mark hiccups a bit as they come off turn number 4. Falls in behind his brother as they go into number 1. Darrell Lapointe grabs the 3rd spot. Michael Jarvis is 4th, and Richard Dowdy is 5th. Into turn number 3. Off turn 4, racing to the stripe, it'll be the 32 of Chris Bakaj with the win. Second is the 52 of Mark Bakaj.
It's Chris's turn to enter victory lane as he moves out of the car. Tonight's legend winner, Chris Bakaj. So many caution flags at some time it appeared we'd never get any momentum. How were you able to survive non-yellow flags?
Oh, I don't know. I got caught up in the beginning with one and just slowly worked my way through the field, and I thought something was against me on that last 5-10 laps. I haven't worked so hard. This one, I like this win. This win was great. I worked real hard for this one. I love it.
And what a performance, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see this many times during the summer. The driver of car number 32, Chris Bakaj. Well, Gary, if it's not Chris, it's Mark. If it's not Mark, it's Chris. At least that's the way the legend season